104.5 The Team, your home for New York Yankees baseball. Now, normally we talk to Buster only on Thursdays, but we're going to be in Bristol, and Buster said, you know what, why don't we talk today? And I said, any chance to open the phone lines to Buster is a good one. So, Buster, I was just reading your article you wrote that Major League Baseball mishandled the brawl. How exactly did that go down?
Well, there were three parts of that, and I thought the Odor suspension of 8 games was perfectly fine. John Gibbons getting 3 games going out on the field after being ejected, I thought that was fine. But I don't know how you wind up with a situation where Matt Bush, who started the whole series of events by throwing at Jose Bautista, within the decision, they basically announced that they determined that Matt Bush threw at him on purpose, but all they gave him was a fine. I don't know how you don't suspend him if you decide that he did that with intent. And it's kind of, to me, like you can't be a little bit pregnant. If you determine intent and you decide that you think Bush threw at him, then he needs to get a suspension along the lines of what Jesse Chavez got, 3 games or more. I don't know how Kevin Pillar and Josh Donaldson didn't get suspended. I know Elvis Andrus, the shortstop for the Rangers, got 1 game for throwing a punch. He didn't hit anybody, but he threw a punch. And when you watch Pillar and watch Donaldson and you see what those guys did, it confuses me that they didn't get anything when it was clear, especially Pillar was going out there to do some damage. And third, I was surprised about Jose Bautista getting only 1 game because I think everything he did up and through the slide into second base, he was fine. But after going through the slide, he popped up and he's ready to go with Odor. He's squaring off, and to me, it's not that much different than a hitter charging the mound. And I was surprised he only got 1 game.
Everything he did right up until seeing little birdies flying around his head.
Yeah, no kidding.
That was quite a punch.
The way that it worked out. Yeah, I the decisions, they were just puzzling to me. They don't make any sense, especially the one about Matt Bush.
Buster, so we've been having this debate on the air. Wolf and I agree. We think this actually, long-term was good for baseball. I mean, when else are we going to talk about Texas and Toronto in May? We were scolded by our producer, who's younger than us and played football at a college level, that violence is wrong. Where do you come down on this?
Well, I actually would argue both sides. Not to be a weasel, but I think that that's absolutely the case. Because on one hand, do I want to see fights happen in baseball all the time? Absolutely not. You don't want to have a situation where it's a free-for-all every night. But if the question is only about publicity and the attention on the sport, how can anyone say anything other than the fact that this got baseball into the conversation right in the middle of the NBA playoffs? It absolutely did, and it doesn't happen unless you get that probably what's going to go down as the most famous punch thrown in baseball history by Rougned Odor.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with you because it's just it's one of those things. Again, I'm not talking Texas and Toronto in May in upstate New York unless Odor throws the most beautiful straight right I've seen outside of a fight sport ever.
Yeah, try.
And I can tell you this. Sorry to interrupt, but I mean, players with other teams were fascinated by this. I was talking to Mike and Mike about this yesterday, that right now Odor is like a legend in baseball circles. Even though he wound up with an 8-game suspension, did things that other people are saying you shouldn't do, among other ball players are going, wow, he threw the punch we would have loved to have thrown, not only because it was a perfect punch, but because Bautista is not one of the best-liked players in baseball.
Did anybody get a look at what those tweets actually said, or is that, sort of he's not really sharing that content?
Which ones are those?
For the ones that Odor got.
Oh, you're talking about the text messages?
Yeah.
No, I haven't haven't been around the team, and I haven't seen anyone report on those.
Because those will stay secret forever.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm telling you, I heard a story. This is not confirmed. I want to make it clear, okay?
Okay.
But I heard a story secondhand that on one team flight of a team that was not involved in this thing, the players started chanting, "Oh, door, oh, door, oh, door," after all the players saw a replay of the punch.
That's great.
Oh, Buster only joining us right now. Levac and Wolf, 104.5 The Team, special day. Buster, last night, Noah Syndergaard goes out in a pitcher's duel with Max Scherzer and outdoes him. Where does Noah rank right now? I know he had a little bit of a gaffe with runners on base and whatever, but if you're ranking him right now, where is he?
probably is the most frightening pitcher to face in baseball. You know, I had a conversation with a longtime hitter at the beginning of the season and asked him about, different guys and what it's like to face them. And we started the conversation with Kershaw, and he said, he's an incredible pitcher, but it's a comfortable at bat because he's going to throw strikes. I think the same thing probably could be said for Jake Arrieta. Syndergaard is so big and he throws so hard, and his stuff is so nasty. He probably is the toughest at bat, which is why as we sit here today, I bet you that if you hooked up a machine to the different Cubs players and manager Joe Madden and members of their front office, as they begin what appears to be a magical regular season for them, the worst nightmare that they're having right now is the idea of Syndergaard standing on the hill for Game 1 in October. That has to be, the biggest concern that they might have, and as we look at the question of whether or not they're going to be derailed at some point.
The New York Post did a story a couple of days ago on how the only thing Syndergaard really needs to work on is holding players to the bases because he's just not used to doing it.
Yeah, forget about it. Who cares? I went back and I looked it up, and I think Dwight Gooden, in one of his first couple years with the Mets, it was like he had 48 steals, and Nolan Ryan, was someone that you could run on, and Greg Maddux was someone that opposing base runners stole against. Who cares? If you have the pitcher, look, you don't want Syndergaard and whoever's catching him to ignore the base runners, but it's kind of irrelevant when he has such an ability to strike out opposing hitters, and it's so difficult to get on first base. And I'd much rather have him focused on the hitter than worrying about the base runners. That seemed to work for Maddux and for Clemens and for Dwight Gooden.
Speaking of big-time pitchers, let's move on to that other New York team and Michael Pineda.
Wow.
What a big-time mess. He hasn't had consecutive quality outings since this time last year? Is it over? Did the Yankees whiff with Big Mike?
No, it's first off, it's hard to say that they necessarily whiffed with him because the other end of that trade, Jesus Montero, didn't work out so great for the Seattle Mariners. And I know when the trade went down, when you talk to executives of the other teams, they were jealous of the Yankees. They thought it was a terrific trade. And here's the thing: when you look at his pure stuff, there are stretches in games when you go, "Wow, he's throwing hard. He's got nasty stuff," and yet it just seems like a case where he, for whatever reason, can't put it all together, which is why Larry Rothschild, his pitching coach, was speaking with such confusion after his latest debacle against the Diamondbacks. And I'll give you an example of sort of how confusing he can be. You guys, know that as you go along during the course of the game, a general starting pitcher, average starting pitcher, loses his stuff as the game goes along, and he gets worse. Michael Pineda, first 15 pitches of games, opponents are batting .488 against him. In pitches 16 through 30, they're hitting like .390. Then in pitches 31 through 46, that drops down to like $1.80. And then at that point, it's like .230. None of it makes any sense. And when you look at the velocity ratings and you look at some of the missed swings against him, it's clear that he's got weapons, but it just seems like he has no clue on how to put them all together. And so I think if you're the Yankees and you are, where you don't have a lot of starting pitching in AAA, you're probably just going to ride it out and hope that he gets better.
Buster, after their recent homestand, 7-3, against some tough teams, should we believe the Yankees are maybe coming back after their rough start, or what's your take on this, and where do you think it's going?
Well, it was a good homestand, there's no doubt. I mean, when you beat three good teams like they did, the Red Sox, taking 2 of 3, the Royals 3 out of 4, the White Sox 2 out of 3, that's a good homestand. But at the same time, when you see the Boston Red Sox and how they're playing now and how good their offense is, and you look at some of the other clubs in the division, you're thinking to yourself, you know what, some things have to go right for them to make up a 7.5-game gap. I think they'll stay in the wild card because their bullpen is so good and because they have things going well. I would say this. I got to believe that within the Yankees front office, at some point, they're going to start having the conversation about how to treat this season. And to me, the number one priority for the Yankees as they make decisions on how to play Alex Rodriguez, when to play Aaron Hicks, the number one goal should be make sure that we are better at the start of 2017, because they're not, so bad that you're going to just blow it up and not give them a chance because they might crawl back into the wild card thing. But to me, decisions like on a given day, do you play Aaron Hicks or do you play Alex Rodriguez? There's no question. To me, you've got to play the younger guys and give them a chance, because if the Yankees are going to get better going forward, those guys have to be better. Where, on the other hand, Alex Rodriguez, CC Sabathia, et cetera, they're part of the past.
Buster Olney joining us on Levack and Wolf, 104.5 The Team, your home for New York Yankees baseball. So future Yankee Bryce Harper is my long-term crush. But with all the speculation that the Angels might move Mike Trout, do I potentially have a fling with him? Is there a chance he could be a Yankee?
No chance. It's not even in the conversation now. Billy Epler, the former Yankees assistant GM, has come out and said they're not trading him, certainly because of how great he is as a player. Future Inner Circle Hall of Famer with Willie Mays and Hank Aaron. That's the sort of trajectory that he's on early in his career. But, in 2016, marketing being such a big part of it, no matter how bad the Angels get, the fans will always have a reason to show up to their games. There is, I think, a long-term question about Trout's future because, he's not signed through 2020. And if at some point they talk to him about an extension and he indicates to them that he doesn't want to sign on long-term, then maybe that's when you start talk about trading him. But even then, right now, the Yankees are not in the best position to make a trade for Mike Trout. If he was out in the market, there would be other teams ahead of him.
Let's talk Freddie Gonzales. Yes. The guy comes into work, he gets an email with travel plans for him to leave Atlanta.
Yeah.
How weird is that?
Yeah, that didn't work out so well. He was actually going, it was after the game they played on Monday in Pittsburgh, and he gets a notification from, I presume it's Delta, saying, your flight to Atlanta, it takes off in 12 hours. And he didn't know he had a flight to Atlanta. And so he read that as a clue that, yes, in fact, he had been fired. He made a couple calls and confirmed it. And look, there's no doubt that he was not going to be the long-term answer as manager. But on the other hand, can you handle something more clunkily than the Braves did in that situation? How about telling him first before Delta?
Yeah.
Right. No, but aren't the Braves tanking on purpose? Like, what did he do wrong? He's getting close to double-digit wins? In my own opinion, they needed a scapegoat. They needed a change of conversation. And Freddie Gonzales is not part of their long-term future. You're right. They did tank it, but they were much worse than I think even the front office realized. I mean, I'm sure they're thinking, boy, in a bad year, maybe we would win 60, 65, not 40, which is sort of how they're playing. So I know, too, that within that clubhouse, Freddie is respected, but I don't think the players, look at him as being a guy that, they have as much affection for, say, the Cubs do for Joe Madden or the Giants do for Bruce Bochy.
Have you ever heard of anybody getting fired like that?
No, absolutely not. Not even close. I mean, there have been other times when through media reports or something like that, but can you imagine it popping up a notification from an airline effectively informing you that you are no longer going to be needed around the Braves the next day?
That's insane. Buster Olney with us. Buster, before I let you go, the Cleveland Cavaliers look really good. The Cubs and the White Sox look really good. Which city's drought ends this year if you had to pick one? Cleveland.
Oh, yeah? I got to believe that they've got the best chance. I love the way they've remade their offense. Tyronn Lue is going to be is someone who's going to go down in history if he can solve this in Cleveland, never have to buy a beer again.
Fantastic. Buster Olney, you're going to San Francisco this weekend?
We got San Francisco and we got the Cubs. Speaking of that team that's trying to break the curse.
All right. Well, best of luck, my friend, and can't wait to talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Buster.
Thanks, guys.